Family, I hope you're well aware by now that Cuba has been without power for a few days now. The whole island, because of a grid failure. You see, their main plant, which never happened before, shut down. So you have over 10 million people without power. And do I need to remind y'all what's about to hit Cuba? Maybe I should. That's right, Hurricane Oscar is about to make landfall within about 12 to 24 hours. Let's take a look. Now, as you can see here, you have Hurricane Oscar, and this is the whole island of Cuba. So it's going to get the bottom portion of it, right? About 33% of the whole island of Cuba is going to feel the effects of this hurricane. You got a lot of wind and rain coming in, right? Now, just think about how this will affect the power turning back on. It's safe to say that nothing like this has ever happened at the same time, where the whole island loses power, and now a good percentage of that island that has no power is about to get hit with a Category 1 hurricane, Hurricane Oscar, if y'all didn't know. That's why I showed y'all. You see, I lined everything up, and timing is kind of coincidental, but it ain't no coincidences.
Cuba has had a blackout for 3 days now. There's a few areas that have gotten their power back, and some areas that are heavily with tourism, they have power. But I wasn't going to talk about this because I'm not Cuban. My husband is, and his family is, and I love them very much. But the only reason I'm going to say something is because I'm seeing a lot of comments that's misinformation. And I try not to get political at all because I just know it's opening up a can of worms. But I think there's a lot of people who mean well when they write certain comments, but it's because they don't know. So that's the type of people that I hope I can reach out to, because a lot of people think it's the embargo and the sanctions and that it's the United States' fault for why Cuba is in the situation that it's in. I mean, all you need to do is go on TikTok and put Cuba today, Cuba now, and so many videos are going to pop up, and you're going to see what the truth is. Garbage everywhere, the lack of hygiene products, lack of medicine in pharmacies, what the hospitals really do look like. I mean, you get free healthcare. You want to go to those hospitals. You get free education, but what good is a free education if you're not getting paid well for it, and you can't travel abroad and you can't do anything with the education that you've received? Now they don't have electricity. They sleep at night in buildings that at any moment could collapse on top of them. But here's my point. They can trade with almost everyone except the United States. They can trade with China. That's huge. Half the stuff that we get comes from China, and you know it's true. They can trade with Mexico and Spain, Canada, the Netherlands, Venezuela. I mean, Russia. I mean, there's tons. And let's talk about Russia. Russia has given Cuba billions of dollars. Euros, actually. Billions of euros. And where did the money go? They have no infrastructures, brand new infrastructures. They don't even have new cars. You can't buy deodorant and toilet paper and basic food. School supplies for your kids, new clothes. It's so bad. Like, now I feel like this is it. Like, now they have no power and water. This is going to be this is massive. And my heart goes out to the Cubans that have to suffer this. And this isn't socialism anymore. This is beyond socialism. I think this is like a totalitarian. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, but this government is not even a government. I think they're the devil himself. This is the most beyond corrupt. They don't care about their people. I see these videos. I feel so sad. How many disgusting men go to Cuba by themselves and travel there, and you know exactly why they go there. You know exactly why they go there. And these girls are what, 13, 12? I think I said enough. It's so bad. So when you write something and you say it's the United States' fault, I really think you need to learn that you're wrong. You're wrong. Okay? Because right now, walk around your house, almost everything that you have, not everything, but a big portion of the stuff that's in your house is from China. Right? Right? They could trade with Canada. with Spain, with Mexico. What are you talking about? And it's a really small country. And if you're giving billions of dollars, where did the money go? What? Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, like, before you write something, just take a little time to see, let me see if this is the truth. Because I can tell you, I know a lot of things. I'm not going to get into it because I'll be here forever. But my father-in-law's side of the family, my father-in-law was incarcerated for years trying to fight the regime. He was tortured. And my mother-in-law's brother, 17 years political prisoner. He came out of there really bad, guys. He's no longer with us. So you take that for what it's worth.
This video is for educational purpose. Sharing is caring, and knowledge is wealth.
I don't know about y'all, but did y'all see what's going on in Cuba? You really telling me 10 million people is without electricity? What? The president wrote on X, "We are giving this our absolute priority." I would hope you are. They've been having power outages that last for up to 12 hours with no power. Really? Like, we going back to back 12 hours? Come on, y'all. We got to get this together. And guess who they're blaming? Yep, you guessed it. The U.S. Crazy.
So Cuba's power grid collapses for a second time. On Friday, it initially collapsed. And then Saturday, which is today, it collapses again while they were basically in the middle of trying to restore the power back for the people. This has become one of the worst crises that Cuba has even dealt with in the history of the country. It leaves like 10 million people across the island without power today. So initially it happened on Friday, shortly after the Cuban officials announced that they were working and have begun to reestablish services. All of a sudden the power grid goes down again. Now, just so you guys can understand, okay, I'm not trying to fight y'all in no comments about no presidents and presidencies and what they did. Catch it or you don't. So this crisis has been in the making because Cuba's power plants have been in desperate need of maintenance, just like another country I know. Y'all better catch it. So please note that Cuba produces very little fuel on its own for its own island country, but they rely on the imports of other countries to keep their electrical grid afloat. So people was trying to make it like this was the first time, this was the first issue. This is not the first time Cuba has had these blackouts, these rolling out blackouts. This has been going on for months, actually. They've been having blackouts off and on. But just so everybody know, because I want y'all to catch what I'm putting down, the country, Cuba, actually started to tank initially during the pandemic. Catch me. What happened was the tourism plummeted, inflation soared, and then y'all favorite president, the trumpet, he imposed some sanctions, like travel sanctions and things of that nature going to the country, in which it basically economically began to cause Cuba to tank, okay? So by now they have blamed the U.S. for different sanctions that have made it complicated for the island to basically finance itself or be able to stay afloat. So this brings me to my next point. America, our grid was built back in the 60s and 70s. Now, the system has been updated and has been improved with emerging technology since then. However, we still have somewhat of an aging infrastructure situationship, right? So basically, it's struggling to meet the modern day electricity needs, like AI systems and things of that nature. And with a crashing economy, people of God, catch it. With folks going hungry, catch it. And other things happening with our economy, that brings me to Cuba. Don't think it can't happen to us. We ain't that great. We ain't that wonderful. It'll be right on our doorsteps, backyards. Hey, how you doing? Lights off. I don't know how the crisis in Cuba will be fixed, and because we literally don't have the resources to, like, even if these sanctions are lifted, or I don't even know if there's still sanctions that we have with Cuba, but our economy right now is not the best, and we all know it. We all feel it. We all hungry, okay? For me, this is an added on situationship that our country is going to be feeling the weight of because of its actions. But do not think it cannot be on our doorsteps, that it cannot happen over here. Because the way that the economy is looking really promising. Yikes. That's it. That's all. That's something else to pray for. Okay.
Did you all know that as of October 19th at 6:15 a.m., Cuba has now been hit by a second nationwide outage, meaning they have a full blackout. The entire country is without power, except for the limited amount of generators that they have and that they're using, which is really a luxury, especially in a country like Cuba. Now, let's get into what's going on, because this is the second time that this happened, and they were just starting to slowly restore power in certain areas, and many people were complaining and reporting that even though the power came on, it was only on for a short while and flickered right back off. With this nationwide blackout, we're talking street lights aren't working, running water is going to be limited and in a while may not even be available. Refrigerated food is going to spoil because there's no refrigeration. They don't have a lot of generators. The majority of the country suffers with poverty. You have hospitals running on generators as well, which is very limited. You have stores closing down. The Prime Minister, Manuel Marrero Cruz, has actually said that they've slowed and limited all production. So certain stores, nightclubs, even the tourism areas, everything is at a halt, because their infrastructure, their electromagnetic infrastructure is so weak that they're not even able to have enough energy to support making money for the country. This is wild. It's so crazy that this is happening. And they're alleging also that the hurricanes themselves, mixed with the weakening infrastructures, as well as the alleged U.S. sanctions being placed, is really making it hard for the country to fix their energy crisis or to even produce and have a strong economy. This is happening today, currently right now. Like, I woke up, I just was skimming online, no clue that this was happening. So this is just the news you can use. Please do your research. Prayers out to the people in Cuba, because I can't imagine how devastating that is. And meanwhile, people just living their best lives at the club, at Chick-fil-A. It's like the world is in constant turmoil. There's wars happening everywhere. A whole country, you guys, is without power. Hospitals, people in hospice, like if those generators stop working, if they run out of fuel, kaput. It's insane. So prayers out. I wonder what's going to happen. If I see any updates, I will absolutely let you all know. But please do your research. Please share this. And if you know anyone who's in Cuba or who is from Cuba who has more information in regards to this situation and can give us, some clarification as to what exactly is going on down there, please share it with them. Please drop a comment. I don't even know what else to say, because it's so hard to fathom just a whole country. Like, oh, France is without power. Oh, Jamaica, just a whole country. And not for the first time, but for the second. But anyways, this is probably what the news you can use, like, following.
Telling me that there's at least 10 million people without power in Cuba and nobody not talking about this? So today around 11 a.m., the whole Cuba lost power. And they're blaming it on the United States. They're saying that they think it's our fault. And guess what? There hasn't been a remedy for it. No way to fix this right now. So you telling me that the whole Cuba, the whole entire Cuba has no power? It's just dark? Oh my goodness. And of course, the city is in a frenzy. This is a power grid shutdown. You got to think about it. All of their streets are going to be pitch black. Everything is going to be black. They're not going to be able to drive. They're not going to be able to do a whole lot of things. And then what about their food? If they don't have power for a certain amount of days, their food is going to go bad? Wow. If that happened in Cuba, just imagine. Oh no. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm ready to put the tinfoil on the head. As easy as it can happen there, it can happen. I'm not gonna lie, man. This is crazy. Pay attention.
Why is no one talking about how the Cuban power grid has officially failed? Meaning there are upwards of 10 million people that are without power indefinitely, and they are blaming the United States. This happened at around 11 a.m., and there is no fix in sight, and people in Cuba literally don't have a plan, and they're in the fucking dark. Nope, this wasn't caused by a storm. This wasn't caused by a hurricane, but they are blaming the United States for leaving this entire island, and the reason that this entire island is in mass chaos in the dark. This island-wide blackout is from a power plant failure at one of the major power plants that is over all of Cuba. They're calling this an electrical grid shutdown. Motorists can't navigate the city because there are no fucking streetlights. There's only a handful of police officers that can literally direct traffic. Only like high-end places in Cuba have generators, like hospitals, some stores, and they're urging people, their government, to stay home to try and save whatever energy they have from these generators that are running on gas. Cuban officials are blaming this on things like increased U.S. economic sanctions, some disruptions from hurricanes and getting no relief, saying that they are improvising for the states of the island's infrastructure. They're saying that they have been a paralyzed economy and they don't have the activity to generate power to the entire population. I don't know what's going on, but I'm telling you, I don't think the entire island of Cuba without power is a good recipe. And we are about to see in 4K HD what one of the possibilities of E-Day would have. Reports are coming in that Hurricane Oscar could lead to a major humanitarian crisis, and no one is even talking about it. Hurricane Oscar is set to make landfall in Cuba today, and the reason that that could lead to a major humanitarian crisis is because they are already experiencing a mass power grid outage, meaning they already have no power. Hurricane Oscar is forecast to bring heavy rains and storm surge to eastern Cuba, where again there are already millions that are without electricity. They are classifying this grid failure in Cuba already as a power crisis, and now that Oscar is moving in, it's only going to create more issues. According to the National Hurricane Center, Cuba is expected to receive 5 to 10 inches of rain through Tuesday, and this could also accumulate upwards to 15 inches in some places. Even though it is just a Category 1 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 80 miles per hour, it has already passed through the southern Bahamas and on its way to Cuba, where there is already a larger emergency happening. Oscar will strengthen into a Category 2 before making landfall, but hurricane impacts to Cuba are extremely concerning because of the ongoing power outage. If you add on a hurricane, this is inevitably going to have major impacts on the people of Cuba. I don't know if it's just because they're not Florida that people aren't even talking about it, but these people are going to be put in an even tighter spot and they already don't have power.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Of course, show some love and give a shout out to those content creators down in the description box. Click the links. It will take you directly to their channels. Show some support and see you till next time.